I'm in my room trying to read this book, but I keep getting distracted by these tiny little things. I keep looking out the window, I keep looking at my computer screen, I keep picking up my phone, checking the time, looking at my watch. And because of that, I can't even remember the sentence that I read. I try to read one sentence, the second sentence, the third sentence, but then I just forget it. So a few moments later, out of rage, out of me just not being able to read, I go downstairs and I tell my dad that I'm going outside. So I say bye to my dad, I open the door, I walk outside, I close it, I walk down all the stairs and open another door and then finally get outside my flat. When I got to the park, I started climbing up this massive hill that got to the second part of the park because it's got a lower section and an upper section. So I start walking up this hill, I go past the tree section and then I finally get to the log that I usually read at. And I was about to sit down when I look to my right and I see that there's actually guys playing football there. And they look around my age, so I was thinking to myself, well, I don't really want to read here. They might look at me and they think I'm going to be a nerd. So I pick up my bag and I begin walking around the park looking for another place to read. Until I remember there's actually a bench over there I could literally be reading on. So I walk over there and thankfully there was no one sitting there. So I go there, I sit down, I put my bag down and I pull it out. I pull out a book and I begin reading it. And that same day, I read almost half the book. And when I go back home, the sun was already going down and I was able to read a book and actually remember what I read. And something I learned from that story was that you don't necessarily need to read in your room. You can read in different places, like outside at the park, you can read downstairs, and you will actually benefit more from reading in different places compared to your room. Because in your room, the distraction level is all the way up here. You got your computer, you got your phone, you got your window that you constantly keep looking out of. You got so many distractions. So whenever you start reading, your mind gets a little thought thinking, oh, I could be watching this other video. Oh, but my computer's on. I could maybe look at a YouTube real quick. And you start scrolling through the home page. You see like a 5-minute video. You click on it thinking you'll learn more from this book, from the video instead of the book. And when you do try to read the book, you just read one sentence, read two sentences, and then forget because your mind is wandering on different things. That is why reading, or what I do now, is I start reading in different places. Like I usually read downstairs because I don't obviously have to go all the way to the park, but I usually read downstairs in the living room, or I just read in the park. And these are such way better places to read because instead of kind of reading and then getting distracted by your computer, I get to read in peace in my living room without any distractions on my computer or the YouTube homepage. And I usually avoid taking my phone. All I take is literally just a book, a pen, and that's it. I just take up my book and I start maybe writing a few notes on it whenever I get a little idea on it. I just write on the book. And something that I learned from Robert Greene, which is the guy who wrote the 48 Laws of Power, Seduction, the Laws of Human Nature. Something that I learned from him that you'll probably find valuable, really valuable indeed, is to learn what you're interested in. I used to do this where, before I used to go to bed, I usually had like 5 Chrome tab opens of YouTube based on a certain topic about focus or about productivity. But the next day I would wake up, I would of course record some videos, go to school, but when I get back from school, I would have these 5 tabs open on one specific topic. But when I got back from school, I usually wasn't interested in that topic. But I kind of thought to myself, oh, but I need to finish this podcast before I could start watching other videos because I thought I'll miss out on valuable knowledge. But the issue is, whenever you're not interested in learning from something, you won't learn it. For example, you can maybe remember when at school, you maybe had like a subject that you weren't particularly interested in. Maybe it was like science, maybe the teacher was bad, maybe the teacher was boring, maybe it was maths, maybe it was, I don't know, geography. Now that I look back, that was such a dumb idea of mine because I was thinking to myself that I need to finish these 5 podcasts to then move on to the next one. But what was stopping me from just closing those 5 podcasts and then opening up something that I was interested in? And what you need to understand is that when you're actually interested in something, you will learn way more than when you're not interested in it. For example, you can maybe remember in school, you might have a subject that you really, really liked. Maybe it was like science, maybe it was geography, maybe it was ICT, whatever. But you also had subjects that you didn't like maybe science, maths, you didn't like. But therefore, you weren't really paying attention, you really weren't engaging, and therefore you didn't learn as much. We learn from what we're interested in, and of course our interests change day to day. So why do this with books? Because usually you have an interest on one book, but then the next day you might be thinking, okay, yesterday I was interested in masculinity and femininity, but today I'm interested in business. Reading about masculinity and femininity is not really the smartest way to go, because you're going to be thinking about business, and you're not even going to be able to focus on the book. You're just going to read the first sentence, forget it, read the second sentence, forget it, thinking to yourself that, oh, I need to finish this book to then move on to the next one. You don't need to do that. let's say you wanted to read Psycho-Cybernetics. You might be thinking that you need to finish the book you're reading to move on to the next one. But like I said, you're much more likely to remember something that you're interested in compared to something that you're not. And the way I read books is a little bit disrespectful what it works. Let's say one day I'll be reading this book, but then halfway through it, I'll just get bored of it. So I'll read another book that I'm more interested in, like Steal Like an Artist. I'll get bored of that one, then I'll just start reading like a psychology book like Psycho-Cybernetics. I just keep switching and flipping around books that pique my interest, and therefore I learn more and I remember more. So I treat books almost like YouTube videos. For you, you don't just watch a full-length YouTube video. Let's say you get bored halfway through. You're not just going to continue watching the video. If you get bored, you just click away from it and just watch a different one. So why not treat books the same? Where you get bored of one book and you're not really learning from it anymore. So why not switch to another book that you're interested in and you'll learn more and remember more? It's like there's no reason to not do it. It's kind of stupid when you really think about it. So what you can do practically out of this video is, like I said, read in different places where you won't get as distracted as much. For example, when you're in your room, you look out the window, you check your computer, you check your phone. It's not really comfortable. For some reason, I don't really like reading in my room. There's just something about it that doesn't feel attractive. It doesn't feel nice. But when I go downstairs and I read in my living room, it feels much more peaceful, much more like I need to read there. I know this sounds kind of weird, but just try this out, because usually we link certain places, certain areas with one thing. For example, your room is linked to sleeping, with usually maybe doing some work on your computer, your phone. So when I'm trying to learn, it doesn't really feel like it's a place to do it. I know that sounds kind of like, oh, I'm being arrogant, but that's kind of what your mind thinks. Your mind links certain areas to certain things. You see your bed, you see, okay, I need to sleep there. You see your desk, I need to work there. So why not have a certain area for your reading? That's why maybe when you're reading in your room, it doesn't feel correctly, or that's what I felt. It felt like it's not the place to read. It just doesn't feel attractive. But when I went downstairs or I went outside, it felt much more attractive, much more fun. It felt like I could read there because it isn't linked to something. So now, whenever I go downstairs, it's linked to me reading. And it's much more attractive, much more fun. And if you're reading a book right now that you're not particularly interested in, just switch it up. Because if you keep reading that same book, you're not interested in it, but you keep telling yourself, oh, but I need to finish it. Oh, but I need to finish it. Then you're gonna link reading with like a chore. You want reading for you to be something fun. That's why you go downstairs, you go to different areas, you read books that you're interested in, because then you make reading fun. But when you make reading a chore, then your mind is gonna think reading equals bad. I don't want to do reading, so you're not gonna want to read. But when you're reading in places you do like, the books you're interested in and you like, then you're gonna be more likely to read. And therefore you're gonna be able to remember, learn more, because you're actually learning about your interests. I remember I finished Atomic Habits and I'm getting to the advanced tactics section, and I already got interested into the book. I literally read the whole book almost in 1 week because it was so good. It was so well written. And I read the 4 laws, so making it obvious, making it easy, making it attractive, making it satisfying. But when I got to the end of it, it was just kind of boring. I didn't really get much interested in it. It gave like advanced tactics that were a little bit boring that I kind of already knew. So when I was just reading it, for some reason, my brain thought, oh, but I need to finish it because there might be some knowledge there. But I just didn't really learn anything. And I literally can't remember anything from the last section that I didn't already know. And I could have just reread the whole book and probably learned more from that than actually reading that tiny section. And what that did for me was that I linked kind of reading with something boring. I was kind of forcing myself to finish Atomic Habits when I wasn't interested in it. But then I remembered this idea and I was like, why don't I just switch the book? I'll be more interested in learning about spirituality in the way of the superior man. So why don't I read that? And if you want to learn from me more closely, that'll be the first thing in the description. I have a community with like-minded guys just like you, just like me. You want to improve, you want to read more, you want to learn from books, you want to grow as men, as guys. And that'll be the first thing in the description. Community, we do course. I'll be releasing a course soon. So first link in the description. Second link in the description will be my one-to-one coaching about self-improvement, about business, about how you can start your YouTube channel, how I've done here, how you can maybe monetize it, and all of that. So I'll be the second link in the description, my one-to-one coaching about self-improvement, where we work one-to-one, where I teach you about self-improvement, about productivity, about habits, about business, about everything I know. And we try to get you to a certain goal, whether it's about business, about self-improvement. It's just like an umbrella of self-improvement, about business, about health, about relationship, whatever. So I'll be the second link in the description. You can book a call with me and we'll see if we're a great fit for my coaching package. And I really hope you benefited from this video.